Hello, welcome to the Q&A practice of the 200 class. We're going to start out with some for voice, and the plaintiff will be questioning. Ready? And his handwriting? Yes, I have. And does that appear to be his signature on that check? Yes, it does. Does that appear to be his handwriting where it has the names written on there? Yes. Does it appear to be his handwriting where loan is written? It would be hard for me to say. A lot of the letters, take a look at there are two signatures on the back. Yes, there is. Do you recognize those? Yes, I do. And whose handwriting, whose signatures are they? The top one is mine and the bottom one is Stephen's. Do you contend that this was a loan to the two of you? No, I don't. It never was intended as a loan? Not to my knowledge, no. I never discussed it with his parents. You never discussed the issue with his parents? What was it? A gift. Did you know it was coming? Yes, I did. How did you know it was coming? Steve told me. He said that they were giving you $120,000? That his father was, yes. Now you know that we contend it was a loan. Do you know whether or not anything was paid as far as an interest on this? Not to my knowledge. You never signed a check or paid any money? Not against this check, no. Not against this check? Did you ever pay any money? We had borrowed money from his mother later on, and we had returned it, paid it back. What was the amount? I don't know the exact amount. And when was that it was repaid? I believe it was sometime in 2008, probably around April or May of '08. April or May of '08, but you're saying that it wasn't for payment on the loan? No, it wasn't. No further questions on this issue, Your Honor. Ms. Hendrickson? Thank you, Your Honor. Mrs. Netter, did you ever have any conversations with your husband regarding this particular $120,000 check? Are you referring to when we were getting it initially? Yes. At the time that you received the check, did you have any conversations with your husband about the check? Just the fact that his father was going to give us a gift. He was dying of cancer, and it was my understanding that he was giving the children gifts before he died. Did Mr. Netter ever tell you that this was a loan? No. Did in fact he tell you that this was a gift? Yes. Did he ever tell you that there was any written agreement regarding this as being a loan? No. Did you in fact use this money as a down payment on a home that you then purchased? Yes. Did you purchase this home under FHA government regulations? Yes, we did. And as part of that purchase, were you required to provide a gift letter to FHA regarding the characterization of this $120,000 check? Yes, we were. And did you and your husband indicate to the mortgage company that was handling that loan that this was in fact a gift? Yes, we did. And did your husband join in that information? Yes, he did. Now you subsequently sold that home, didn't you? Yes, we did. And did you pay back any of this $120,000 amount at the time you sold that house? No, we did not. Did Mr. Netter, your ex-husband, ask you to pay back that amount to his parents? No, he did not. Was there any discussion regarding whether or not that should be? No, there wasn't. Did you then use the proceeds from the sale of that home to purchase another home? Yes, we did. Was there any discussion at the time you purchased that other home that this money should be used as a loan? No. In fact, there were never any discussions until the time of this divorce that would be a loan? Correct. I have no further questions, Your Honor. All right, Mr. Anderson? Nothing further of this witness. All right, you may step down. Thank you, ma'am. Any further evidence, Mr. Anderson? Yes, Your Honor. I'll call the petitioner. Mr. Netter, please come forward. Please raise your right hand. You do solemnly state that the testimony you shall give in the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Please be seated. Will you state your full name for the record? Steve John Netter. Go ahead. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Netter, do you recall receiving a check for $120,000? Yes, I do. And do you remember approximately when that was? Approximately January 29th, a few days after. May I approach, Your Honor? Yes. Showing you Exhibit 14, would you take a look at that? Is that the check that you received? Yes, it is. Do you recognize the writing on the face of that check? Yes, I do. And whose writing is that? That is my father's handwriting. And there's a notation that says loan on there. Is that correct? Yes. Is that his writing also? Yes, it is. Do you recall that being on the check when you received it? Absolutely. Can you tell me the circumstances surrounding the receipt of this check? Yes, my wife and I went back in November of '05. We informed my parents that we were in fact expecting a child. We said we wanted to buy a house. We asked for a loan. We discussed it at length with my parents. My dad was dying of cancer and he wanted to first. Let me stop you right there. Did he die? Yes, he did. When was that? It was April of '06. Approximately how long after that check was written? Approximately 3 months. Okay, proceed. So what? He was dying of cancer and he didn't want us to give us an answer right away, of course. He wanted to check with finances that he had in fact had the proceeds. He did discuss it with both of my sisters and his wife, my mom, and then they decided in January that they would give us the loan, and they specifically told us it was a loan and it was for the benefit of my mom, and we discussed the terms, and it was to be repaid to her because he knew he was dying. It was an incurable cancer. What were the terms? Well, what my father wanted, it was a 3-year note payable at simple 5% interest to be paid back in one lump sum. And how were you supposed to come up with the money to pay that back? He suggested we either get a second or sell the house, or by that time, in 3 years, the real estate market would go up and we could make improvements on the house. Did you ever discuss this loan with the respondent? Absolutely. Has she said anything recently about it being about her recognizing that it was a loan? We did have telephone conversations during the inroads here. What did she say about it? She said that she did actually admit that my father did give us a loan, but she was not going to pay my mother back one red dime. Now, this was a loan. Was anything ever paid? Yes, it was. How much? We paid the $20,000 interest for the 2 years that we did have the money. And when was that paid? Well, it was paid in late May of '08. 2008? Yes, it was. And there was let me show you. I inadvertently have those unmarked if that would be possible. Just mark the originals. Hand them to me, please. I have 15 and 16 marked for identification. Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, counsel has not provided me with a copy yet of exhibit number 16. 15 and 16? I just handed her copies, Your Honor, representing that those are true and accurate copies of the exhibit. Would you take a look at, let's go first to 16. Can you describe that exhibit? It's a letter. And who is it to? It's to my sister Diane. What is her last name? Diane Weekler. And is it dated? Is the letter dated? Yes, it is. And who wrote that letter? I wrote the letter. Did you write it back when it was dated? Yes, on June 1, 2008. How is it that you are in possession of it? I contacted my sister and she sent it back to me. Can you read it, Your Honor? It's only 2 pages. If I could have you read the letter. The letter is the best evidence, Mr. Anderson. Does that letter discuss a loan? Yes, it does. Okay, I'm going to transfer now transcripts, and I will read this transcript for a few more minutes. This is going to be defense questioning. Having examined Mr. Johnson, if he had been faking this about this delusion, would you have been able to discover it? One can't say definitely, but it certainly seemed consistent with what we see in an acute alcoholic psychotic reaction. Drawing upon your medical experience, do you have any doubts in your mind with regard to the hallucinations that Mr. Johnson told you about the evening? No, personally, I feel that he really did perceive this hallucination. During the time that Mr. Johnson would have been hallucinating this threat, that he felt he was suffering from this devil at the time that he was firing this rifle, would it have been that he was firing at the devil? I really couldn't definitely say whether it was that organized an act or not, in a state of acute panic, feeling threatened by this thing which was following him even about his own house, as he described it. He was firing a gun, which was his response to a dangerous situation. Whether it was a more organized act than that, I couldn't say. Now, doctor, subsequent to your examining Mr. Johnson, did you make a written report with regard to your examination? Yes. If I may approach the witness, Your Honor? Certainly. Doctor, I will show you what appears to be on your stationery a letter addressed to the Honorable James K. Turner and ask you if you recognize this. Yes, I do. Is this a copy of a letter that you submitted with regard to your examination of Mr. Johnson? Yes, that is actually the second examination. I really didn't understand why I was ordered to see him at that time. I had already seen him in January and already submitted a report. Now, in comparing your January report with your March 10 report, is there any deviation from your conclusions or your opinions with regard to Mr. Johnson's capacity to understand or know the quality of his acts or to distinguish between right and wrong? No, I believe the reports are essentially the same. I wonder if you would look at all 3 pages or all 4 pages dated March 10, Doctor, and tell us if this is a copy of the report that you sent out to the court. Yes, that's a copy of the one that I have here. Thank you, Doctor. Your Honor, we would move to have this introduced as Defendants J. No objection, Your Honor. It will be received in evidence as Defendants J. Doctor, I wonder if you could tell us what significance, if any, in your examination of Mr. Johnson you placed upon these statements allegedly made by Mr. Johnson, such as the ones I repeated to you. I'm sorry I shot the officers out there. I just shot. It doesn't mean anything to me anyway. This was made shortly after he was taken into custody, I assume. Okay, that concludes our Q&A for the 200 class.